Hey guys, Jackie here. Today's video is about Pretty Little Liars Season 5, Episode 23, The Melody Lingers On. This isn't really going to be a traditional recap. I'm going to recap the episode really quickly, but I'm mostly going to talk about theories I have after this episode. Lots of different possibilities about who A could be, or more specifically like A's motives, what they could possibly be. But I will recap it really quickly, just very brief off the top of my head. So Allison's trial has begun. And the prosecution is arguing that Allison faked her kidnapping, which, well, we all know she did, and Mona found out about it, and Allison killed Mona to shut her up. Now, Jason is called to the stand, and Jason changes his story, recants his previous statement, and says that Allison could not possibly be the girl on that video killing Mona. And the prosecution says that they think that since Jason had an affair with Ashley, that Ashley convinced him to lie, and she promised him to continue the relationship, sexual favors, some kind of benefit, something like that, in order for him to lie, I guess to protect Hannah. Now, that is not accurate, because in an actual courtroom, they would never bring up another case. Hannah's name would not be allowed to be brought into it in order to make sure she has a fair trial. But it's TV. Let's go with it. I'm actually surprised my mom did not comment on this because my parents are both lawyers. So when someone on TV gets the law wrong, they make sure to point it out to me very clearly. Especially when the show is set in Pennsylvania because we live in Pennsylvania. But anyway, and yeah, that would never happen in a real courtroom. The girls go to the trial. Spencer's mom doesn't want her to go, but Spencer goes anyway because, you know, when has Spencer done anything her parents tell her to do? The girls decide to go to Mona's room, and A has ransacked it already, but the girls find a little note under Mona's mirror. I'm going to talk about that more later. More theories about that and some possible anagrams. And then later, an ice pick from Boo Boo's Ice Cream Factory, which must be the ice cream factory the girls went to a couple episodes ago, when at the end we saw A looking for handprints. So they're probably getting set up again. Whose handprints are on this? I don't know. These girls better start wearing gloves when they do their snooping, because this is not going to end well for them. And we see Andrew outside the house being creepy. He looks like he's up to something. We'll talk about Andrew later. I still don't think Andrew's A. I mean, that just seems like he's not really a major character. I would be bummed if Andrew was A. Plus people say, you know, well, his name starts with A. Look, if I was blackmailing someone and killing people, I would not sign the messages with my first initial. No, I would not be like J. No. I think A has always been for Allison, even though Allison's not A. The person who is A is calling themselves A because of her. What else happened? I'm trying to think. Oh, Hannah told Caleb she wants him to leave Rosewood and run away so he can finally escape A, but Caleb has no intention of doing that because he loves Hannah so much. Essence of best boyfriend, as Spencer calls him. And Spencer still has not talked to Toby yet, which is driving me crazy. He was not in this episode again. Hashtag where's Toby 2K15. And I have a feeling that we were promised an quote-unquote epic and romantic Spoby scene next episode. So I have a feeling that Spencer is not going to come clean to Toby, and Toby is going to take the whole blame and possibly quit his job because he views Spencer as more important than his job. That could very likely happen, and if it does, I would be upset. Not because I think Toby is 100% innocent. I think he's doing what's best for Spencer again, but he could have, you know, at first he was kind of being a little bit of a jerk, like walking off on her again, because he always does that. That's the one thing that really bothers me about Toby, when he walks away from Spencer in an argument. But since then, you know, Spencer's the one who decided to cheat not once but twice, and if she gets away with that, you know, that would be so annoying. She needs to shoulder some of this blame too, most of it if you ask me, because while he was behaving badly at first, Spencer since then is behaving just as badly, and she's been showing that she clearly wasn't really thinking of him when she was doing those things. She was not thinking about how that would hurt Toby's feelings or anything like that. And so if she gets away with that, I would be upset. Like I said before, I'm a diehard Spoby fan, ship forever, OTP, but I think that Toby needs to tell her they need a break. And they can just think about it for just a little bit, and then they can get back together because, obviously they love each other very much. But if Spencer does not have some kind of repercussions for cheating twice, that would just bum me out because she's not a little angel here, basically. And anyway, I went on a Spoby tirade. What else is new? And so I think that's pretty much everything. If I forgot something, I'll think of it later. I'm going to talk about lots of theories about this. And the PLL wiki said Ezra was supposed to be in this episode, but Ezra was not there. So I don't know what's up with that. Where's Ezra? Hashtag where's Ezra 2K15 as well, because he's not been in the episodes recently. And yeah, I think that's about it for the recap. And now let's talk about some theories. Here is the message that was under Mona's mirror in her room. Chandelier's rituals. Sister-launched lair. A ruler's list chained. By itself, that does not make a lot of sense. The sister-launched lair is interesting to me because, I think Bethany's Big A and I think she's Toby's twin sister. So I thought that was interesting. The other two, I could not make anything out of that. I had no idea what those meant. But there are lots of different anagrams you can get from this message. Now, one of them is every single line of this message is an anagram for Charles De Laurentiis. Now, I don't know if you guys know the Reddit spoilers, but I'm going to talk about them right now. So if you don't want to know those, stop this video, skip like a minute or two, but I'm just going to discuss this really briefly. Someone on Reddit claimed to be from the show, and they said they had watched the finale. Now, I did not believe this at first, because, why would someone potentially risk their job just to give fangirls on the internet spoilers? But one of the things they mentioned was Caleb and Ezra being shot at by arrows. And in the promo for an upcoming episode, it looks like they're really going to be shot at in the next episode. So if they got that right, then what else do they have right? So I'm just going to think about these now, because they could potentially be true. Or who knows, maybe Marlene could have gotten someone to pose them to screw with us. Who really knows? They could just like be telling the truth about one thing and lying about something else. We really don't know, but let's just consider them. So I did not see them on Reddit, but I saw them in the theories tag on Tumblr a lot. So the girls are going to be kidnapped by A and taken to this giant life-size dollhouse. Mona is being kept there alive, and the girls and Mona are going to be forced to act out scenarios by A like they are A's real-life dolls. They also find an anagram there that spells Charles, so they deduce that Charles must be A's first name. And it said there's no Big A reveal, really, in that episode. Like, you're not going to go out knowing for sure who A is, which I think, even if this person is wrong, that we're not going to know for sure. Marlene has said that the Big A reveal, as ABC Family called it, could just be a big reveal about A, not necessarily the reveal of Big A. And so I think we're going to get some clues, and then that's it. Marlene says we'll be able to find out who A is based on we have all the information we'll need after the finale. So hopefully they'll tie up a lot of loose ends. I guess that's all we can hope for. You know what? If they do reveal Big A, I will be pleasantly surprised because I'm not expecting much right now. So that kind of makes you wonder, who is Charles? Charles could be Allison's twin, which would disappoint me a little bit because, in the books, Allison has a twin. So if in the show she has a twin too, and that twin's A, that would be kind of like deja vu. Like, I could have just read the books for that. I would like something more original. An interesting thought I had was, what if Allison's twin was a transgender? Because we know in the flashback that Mrs. D was sending someone a yellow dress. So perhaps if Allison was born with a brother who wanted to become a sister, that the family could have cast her out, but Mrs. D was still accepting of this child, born Charles, now going by another name, as who they truly were inside. That could also make some people feel really sad for A, if A was a transgender shunned by their family. But again, how would the girls tie into this? And you know what, personally, unless A is crazy, and they do not realize how wrong their actions were, I'm probably not going to feel pity for them, because if you are mentally competent, there is no excuse for doing this to people, if you ask me. Because, if you have the ability to tell right from wrong, there's no excuse. You just become as bad as the people who hurt you, and, you did this, you chose to hurt these people, and I don't feel sympathy for you. So that's just me, though. Maybe if A was severely bullied, people would feel bad, but I would not, unless they were mentally ill, and they didn't know what they were doing was wrong. That's the only way. Another interesting theory I saw was that Charles is actually Allison and A's secret love child. That could potentially be interesting. I don't know if you guys know, but in the books, Emily did have a baby she gave up for adoption, so that could be a parallel to this. That could be interesting. Obviously, then Charles would not be A, but would tie into A's motivations if A was Allison's baby daddy. That could be an interesting storyline, I think. And, I think it's probably likely that the person this message is referring to is not A, but ties into A's motivations, because Mona did not know who A was. And if she was kidnapped by A, if she had to run away at the last minute, she would not have time to leave a coded message for someone to find. She would be out of there quick. So I think this person that this message is referring to is probably not A, but is involved, and Mona knew that. But I don't think she knew, at least not while she was still in Rosewood, who A was. Whether Mona's alive, dead, I'm still going to lean towards alive until we know for certain she's 100% dead. But, she could be dead. I'm going to stick with alive for now. Another anagram, you could say Rachel S. De Laurentiis, or S. Rachel De Laurentiis, or even Rachel's De Laurentiis. So Allison could have a female twin, Jason could have a twin, they could have a half-sister, or this person could not be related to them at all, but it could be like Rachel's De Laurentiis. There is an apostrophe in Mona's message, so maybe that's actually what it says. Like, as in, this person, Rachel, had a relationship with a De Laurentiis, and that's why it's possessive. So that's also a possibility. And another anagram is Nerdy Lucas is the liar. I know we were talking about Lucas clues in my last video, so I think that's kind of interesting. I did not pick up on that, so I don't know who thought of it first, because a bunch of people in the theories tag all were posting about it. So whoever came up with that first, you're really smart. Good job. Again, I would be a little disappointed if Lucas was A. I actually really like Lucas, but I mean, it wouldn't be a deal breaker for me. A little disappointing because it's not super shocking, but not a deal breaker. So those are all possibilities. I really think that A's nickname is not Charles, or they're not going by Charles, or it's actually like Rachel, because I think if the girls deduce, oh, A's name is Charles, it's not going to be that easy. Plus, we don't know a character named Charles, so unless it's like a secret twin who we're not going to find out about until like after the finale, then there's no Charles character on the show. My mom also thought Charles could be a last name. If Bethany's A, maybe it's Marion Kavanaugh's maiden name. It could be Jessica De Laurentiis's. Well, I think they're sisters. They would have the same maiden name. But, it could be someone's mother's maiden name. Could be someone's real name. There's lots of possibilities. So it's kind of just a lot of hypotheticals right now. I'm just throwing lots of stuff out there. Now, Andrew was being a little shady in this episode, but I don't think he's A. He's a relatively new character. I would be very disappointed if Andrew was A. I do think that perhaps Andrew saw someone at Mona's house. That could be a possibility. And I found it interesting that Andrew refers to Mona in the present tense. He says Mona likes, not Mona liked. Almost as if he knows that she's alive. Could that be possible? Maybe. I think it's interesting he didn't refer to her in past tense. And we do see A shredding papers for Paul Varjak in this episode. Does that confirm that A is a man? Not necessarily. Of course, this could be A's alias, and yes, A is a man. Or it could be their helper's alias. Perhaps they had a man helping them who was Paul Varjak, and they're shredding his papers. That's also a possibility. Now, I was also thinking that maybe A is going by Holly Varjak, and they had a boyfriend or family member who they made an alias for as Paul Varjak, so that the two of them could start a new life together, you know, sneak around and do like shady A things with those aliases. That's a possibility. Maybe if Bethany and Toby are twins, she created him a Paul Varjak alias because she was hoping when it was all over, he would leave with her. How creepy would that be? So I don't think that necessarily means that A is a man. To me, A has always felt like a woman. I mean, think about it. Guys, they get mad at each other, they punch each other, then they shake hands and they're bros again. Girls, we are so catty. Like, I'm a girl and there are lots of girls I hate. I mean, I'm in high school, I see mean girls all the time. Girls sometimes just start hating you for no reason, and they will make your life a living hell. They will torture you, spread lies about you, steal your boyfriends. Like, girls can be nasty. And to me, A always just felt like a female. But then again, since lots of characters have called A a she, that could mean that it's actually the opposite. I know Mona said they have to know she's in charge, and Toby said to Spencer once it's always felt like a she, hasn't it? Personally, I think A has always felt like a she, but because people have said the same thing, that could be a hint that A is actually a guy. I mean, personally, again, I'm going to lean towards a she until proven otherwise, for certain. And I'm also thinking about a Cece and Bethany theory now. So my mom actually helped me think of this theory because I told her about the Charles story, and then we saw someone's comment on Reddit, like, yeah, Charles, A is Chuck Bass, ha ha ha, and we were both like, oh, that's funny, and then my mom was like, wait a minute, Chuck is short for Charles, and I remember I had pointed out to her this tweet that I mentioned before, in which someone asked Marlene a question about Cece and Bethany, and Marlene simply replied with Chuck and Blair forever, referring to the show Gossip Girl, where Chuck and Blair are two of the characters. And I remember telling that to her because I thought it was such a weird response, and we're both huge Gossip Girl fans and Chuck and Blair fans. So I had pointed that out to her, and so she was saying, what if this Charles thing has to do with Cece and Bethany, which is actually a really smart idea. I mean, A's name does not necessarily have to be Charles, it could be a red herring. We don't know what Cece's real name is. It could be Charlotte, and Charlotte is often shortened to Charlie. So that's possible, and I do think that Cece could have more involvement because she was wearing a yellow top that night, if Jason remembers correctly. Jason was high that night, but I don't think he would hallucinate that entire thing. For a while I thought maybe he actually saw Bethany but thought it was Cece because he was high. But if that really was Cece talking to Melissa, she definitely has some more involvement. You know, maybe if Cece and Bethany were working together, Cece told Melissa that Spencer killed Allison, which was a lie, we know now. And that's how she got Melissa to bury this body, which I do not believe was Bethany. I think if Melissa was burying someone, she would see the face and she would realize, hey, that's not Allison. I think it really was Allison, but Allison wasn't dead and she got pulled out of that grave by Grunwald. And only when Melissa found out that Allison wasn't dead did she begin to think, hey, maybe I buried somebody else. But it's possible that Cece got her to do that by saying that Spencer did it. That could be possible, because really, didn't Melissa just assume Allison was killed by Spencer because she saw Spencer with a shovel? Like, I would not jump to such a conclusion unless, you know, I had some other evidence. So maybe with what Cece, the lie Cece told her, plus that made Melissa think it was true and led her to bury Allison. That was part of the plan. I think Cece and Bethany could have met each other because there was one time, as we know from a flashback, that Cece went to Raleigh pretending to be Allison to pull a prank on Mrs. De Laurentiis. And perhaps she met Bethany there, and they started talking about Allison and decided they were going to be allies. That is definitely a possibility. So yeah, I think Cece is sketchy. Plus, there was lots of French in this episode, and Cece is currently in Paris. Alright, my dad's about to walk to the door, so I'm going to wrap this up really quickly. Thanks, guys. Leave a comment, and I'll see you soon. Bye!